Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be reviewing for you The Elder Scrolls Blades on the Nintendo Switch. This review was originally written by the marvelous PJ O'Reilly and has been adapted for video by me. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. The Elder Scrolls Blades is a pretty misguided attempt on the part of Bethesda to transfer its beloved RPG franchise to the mobile free-to-play arena. It may have been touted as something resembling a full-fat entry in the franchise prior to its initial early access release last year, but it falls so far short of being anything close to that. There's no adventure here, no great big open world or engaging RPG elements. This is a very basic repetitive grind with an Elder Scrolls skin designed very obviously to tempt you into spending your real-world money on the gems and chests that you'll require to get the most from its grubby little representation of the Elder Scrolls universe. The story here, such as it is, centers around your character, a surviving member of the titular Blades, which are a group of legendary spies and bodyguards that have now been forced into exile, who sets out to discover why the Bloodfall Queen has had her mercenaries destroy your hometown and what exactly it is that's been uncovered in an ancient crypt hidden underneath it. It's a narrative that's reasonably well set up at the outset, but quickly dies a death due to how it's haphazardly conveyed as the game progresses, with tiny bites of information doled out by janky NPCs who act and speak as though they couldn't care less and are much more concerned with sending you on endless errands that will make up the adventuring aspect of the game. The game is split into two distinct aspects in terms of its gameplay. On the one hand, you'll head out into a depressingly small and completely linear levels to smash your way through brain-dead enemies in order to accumulate loot and materials, which then feed into the other part of the gameplay, rebuilding your shattered hometown and developing it through multiple levels in order to unlock access to further bland and repetitive missions. It's a simple setup, and within minutes of starting the game, you'll be in its mind-numbing groove, slaughtering dumb enemies, collecting loot, returning home, and building. As you make your way through the missions on offer here, you'll find great big chests of various rarities that are full of loot ranging from common old swords to armor with great big legendary things with ridiculous Elder Scrolls style names such as the remarkable Iron Shield of Hampering or exquisite leather hood of resist buying green gems. We may have made that one up. And these do temporarily remind us of the addictive excitement derived from discovering good gear in a proper Scrolls game. Here, however, that excitement is immediately tempered by the gems, materials, and coin that accompany the weapons and armor. A depressing and constant reminder that this is not a proper Elder Scrolls game, it's a grindy, free-to-play mobile bastardization of one. In terms of the combat on offer, this is one part of the game where Bethesda has done a reasonably good job. The Elder Scrolls series has always had some relatively basic combat, but there's been an effort to introduce a few new wrinkles to make things a bit more interesting. You'll smash foes with your equipped weapon by pressing ZL or ZR to swing in either direction. Doing so quickly results in a combo, and time the raising of your shield by pushing up in order to parry enemy attacks and stagger them briefly. There's magic and elemental attacks to unlock, perks to enhance various aspects of your base abilities, and some special moves such as dodge counter and extra heavy attacks that you'll gain access to as you progress. On a very basic level, it's inoffensively entertaining, the kind of action you can perform adequately whilst completely tuned out of what's actually going on. Unfortunately, while it does add these handful of new mechanics, it also loses out massively by removing the player's ability to sneak up on enemies or perform any kind of ranged attack. You have absolutely zero freedom in how you approach enemies here. You can't even swing your weapons until a foe sees you, moves towards you, and locks on for some bland one-on-one action. It grows old very fast. But what about the town building aspects of the game? Well, they're even worse. This is not a good looking game, so any joy you may derive from re-establishing your settlement is tempered by the fact that it looks just as bad rebuilt as it did in ruins. In order to repair and replace the houses, blacksmiths, workshops, labs, and so on, you'll need a constant supply of the materials and coins that you'll find out in the field. However, you'll also need lots of green gems if you're going to get anywhere fast. And this is where the expected free-to-play aspects of this mobile game take hold, but in a much more upfront and incessant way than we had hoped. You'll need green gems to do most things in the Elder Scrolls Blades without having to wait an annoying amount of time. Every house you want to build, weapon you want to repair or craft, or potion you wish to make is put on a timer, and if you don't want to wait, you'll have to hand over some of your gems in order to override the countdown mechanic. Even though Bethesda has made positive progress by toning down this aspect of the game somewhat since its initial release, to clarify, you originally had to wait a much longer time, and every single loot chest you found in the game had a timer that counted down to you being able to open it, the fact still remains that this relies heavily on you purchasing gems in order to progress at a satisfying rate. You'll constantly be spammed with messages and adverts offering you gems, chests, special offers on gems, fancy chests, one-time deals on gems, legendary magical chests, and so on. All for real-world money. We get it, this is a free-to-play game, this is how it goes, and nobody is forcing you to buy anything. But Blade's model is so old-fashioned and overbearing, and it's attached to such a crummy, repetitive game that quickly becomes just almost intolerable. Away from the town building mode, there's player versus player arena mode and an endless player versus enemy abyss mode that are easily the best parts of the game. The combat is still just as basic here and the performance is all over the bloody place, but fighting against other players can be pretty fun. The abyss mode is also something of a highlight because it allows you to just get on with battering stuff without having to keep returning to your homestead to get fleeced for more gems. I mean, make no mistake, neither of these modes are in any way great, but they're the standout aspects of this particular package and where we found the game to be the most entertaining. You can also make or join a guild and visit other guild members' towns to swap and buy things and do other guild-related activities. It's a nice addition to the game for sure, but we just can't fathom how anyone would be so engaged with the dull and repetitive gameplay here to spend the time required to really get into these modes. It's all a bit of a shame because every so often this does give off the impression of a full-fat Elder Scrolls game. It looks just like one in some places and has that instantly recognizable music and is occasionally capable of giving off just the right sense of time and place, and you can feel yourself pining for the series' special brand of adventure and exploration. You'll recognize the enemies you come up against in battle, as well as place names and certain aspects of the story that tie into the main entries in the franchise, but it's not enough to hide the fact that beyond the surface level similarity, this really isn't anything like an Elder Scrolls game. It's a tedious, shallow, repetitive free-to-play mobile game designed to frustrate you into spending money. This is also a game that performs surprisingly poorly on Switch, given that it was built from the ground up to run on a variety of mobile devices. There's plenty of stuttering to be found as you wander around your beige homestead or fire off a few magic attacks whilst battling your enemies, which is surprising as the graphics here really are for the most part basic and dated looking. Textures are muddy, NPCs are janky looking, and although there's the odd nicely lit cave here and there, it's hard to see why the game seems to struggle to stick to its 30 frames a second target quite as often as it does. We also noticed a few bugs such as weapons not reacting to our button presses and unresponsive menus that had to be exited and entered again in order to select a mission. It also should be noted that although the game is advertised as having motion controls, this isn't actually something that made it into the game as of yet, with Bethesda reporting that it'll supposedly arrive in a future update. The Elder Scrolls Blades is a bland and repetitive grind. A free-to-play mobile game dressed up like a proper Elder Scrolls title but lacking in any of the adventure, exploration, wit, or charm of a mainline entry in the franchise. Combat is dull, levels are small and linear, town building is boring, and everything is designed to just irritate you to the point of actually just dropping some actual cash on it just to get something to happen. It is a free-to-play game, so you won't lose anything other than your time by giving it a whirl, but we reckon you'll have had your fill of this one after not really a lot of time at all. There are plenty of much better and just outright less egregious examples of freemium games out on the Switch for you to spend your precious time on. Well, you've reached the point in the video where, yes, it's time for Alex's personal thoughts, and even though I think the review did sum things up nicely, I do have my own personal things to talk about, and I'm actually talking about this a while after recording the main bulk of the review, simply because I hadn't actually played the game. I, read the review first, and then I played it to get footage, and oh god. I honestly don't think I've played a game with as little soul as this well, it may honestly be one of the least passionate games that I've ever played. I wouldn't say it was one of the worst games I've ever played. I mean, well, it's up there, to be honest. But yeah, there is nothing of genuine worth here, and it's baffling. I can't imagine how anyone was, sort of developing this game and thought, yeah, this is the kind of gameplay that people are going to come back for. I think I played, in the end, a total of about 40 minutes, give or take, including a ludicrous beginning, which I will explain in a moment. But after 40 minutes, I was just absolutely bored senseless. I was so bored, I just couldn't really bring myself to play anymore. It's so dull. The interesting beginning I had with it was, well, I went through all the standard, rigmarole at the beginning that you'd expect, oh no, my village has been burned down, and all that stuff. I made my character, and then it told me to put in my name, so I thought, okay, I'll just put in Alex. That's what I always put in, because I'm really, really creative. And then the game starts getting a little bit funny. In fact, I've got some footage of it, which I'll show you now. Wasn't really sure what was going on. I just tried continuing. It took me back to this guy with a weird white box. And then the game crashed, like properly. And so I loaded it up again, did exactly the same stuff, and guess what it did again? Yeah, it crashed a second time. It turns out that you have to have a unique username. And for some reason, just typing in Alex, I don't know whether this is usually the case, but I typed my name in. It didn't let me know that I needed a unique name, or that that name was taken, or anything like that. I actually had to go to the support website to find that out. And so I had to type in NL Alex, which is fine, but oh my god, if a username's taken and your game crashes as a result, that's abysmal. And as stated in the review, it runs really, really poorly. It does not look good. For some reason, towards the end of my playthrough, which you may have seen in the footage, when I got into encounters, it started looking down, so I was mainly looking at sort of their torso, or slightly below their torso, and I just have no idea why. Okay, yeah, when I'm going up against rats and wolves and things that are lower down, yeah, sure, but not when I'm going up against humanoids. I just don't get it. I just don't get how this game is so unbelievably half-baked. I know people like to bash Bethesda, but really, overall, I've had quite a lot of respect for them overall. I think they've done some really good games. But this is not up to their standard. It's really not. I just can't believe this came out from Bethesda and they signed it off and they were like, yeah, let's approve this. Let's market it. I just don't know. I just don't know. I mean, yeah, it's free if you want to give it a go, download it, but my god, do not spend any money on it. It's really not worth it.